I love exotic animal medicine because I don't feel like they have as much representation in the veterinary world as dogs and cats do. There's plenty of research out there for our dog and cat companions. Like they're everywhere, but there aren't as many doctors or technicians who are comfortable with, say, reptiles and things like that.
Hi friends, it's Jessica today with Alexa. Alexa is part of the Avanti community, and they're here today to share a little bit about their story. So before we go anywhere with any questions, why don't you start by talking a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name's Alexa. I am a certified veterinary technician, which is a very fancy way of saying animal nurse. And I work 6 days a week at 2 different clinics, one in Kaiser, Oregon, and the other up in Portland, Oregon. It's really nice that both clinics are actually pretty okay with the piercings and things that I have. I was able to get both jobs with the current amount of piercings that I have without having to put in anything clear or take them out or anything of that nature. So it's kind of nice in a medical specialty being able to express yourself that way without feeling limited by your job. Like, oh, I can't have this because of this. It's kind of nice that that's changing.
That's super cool. What got you into being a vet tech?
I've always wanted to be in the animal field since I was a kid. It was just a matter of being a doctor or a nurse. And once I was in the field, I realized that the nurses do all the cool things. Like, we draw blood, we take x-rays, we do all the cool hands-on stuff. The doctor just shows up and kind of says what our work, just kind of based on what we do, gives a diagnosis and things of that nature, but we do all the fun stuff.
Yeah, all my nurse friends and things, they're busy all the time, and whenever I go, and I always end up asking the nurse a bunch of questions because they know me,
Yeah.
The doctor comes in and is like, all right, so this is what it is, and I'm like, no, you don't know me.
Exactly.
What's your cat's name?
Acantha.
Oh, is it a boy or a girl?
She's a girl.
Aww,
Hi, sweetie.
so cute.
She
So
likes she likes to be with me as much as she can, and this is kind of my day off. I have one day off. This is kind of our time.
Have you been super busy with COVID, or have you seen
Yeah, it's been really interesting. We're operating on a process not quite like drive-through medicine, but pretty close.
Okay.
Where we have our clients stay out in their vehicles in the parking lot, and we come and collect. We collect the pets, we bring them into the clinic. We're not allowing clients in our clinics just because we want to minimize exposure and cleaning time and all of that. So we bring the pets into the clinic, we perform the exam, we do a lot of things over the phone.
Okay.
Payments, all of that good stuff, and then we bring the animals back up to them.
Okay. I have a pug. He gets in a lot of trouble, and he seems to get into more trouble now that I'm home. So I've been to the vet like 4 or 5 times since quarantine started. Just with stuff like, hey, I didn't know you could do this, but you ate a plug.
That's not surprising.
Right? I'm like, oh no. I called the vet, and they're like, is it bigger than an eraser? And I'm like, it was a 0 gauge. And they're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. It's like a big eraser.
A giant eraser.
Imagine a really big eraser. Should I be worried? Will he poop it out?
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about what led you to get piercings?
When I was a kid, I don't remember specific individuals, but seeing people with piercings and tattoos and thinking, oh, that's so cool. I want to look like that. And I'm ironically afraid of needles, but that's not super uncommon, I found, with the piercings, that I tell that to, so I don't look when things are happening.
Yeah.
When I got my septum pierced, I closed my eyes the whole time. And my best friend came with me, and she asked the piercer, which I actually did at Avanti, was where my septum was pierced. I don't remember the piercer's name. It was quite a few years ago, but she asked, "Hey, do you mind if I take a picture?" And he said, "Oh yeah, sure, no worries." And she showed me the picture later. She said, "Do you want to see the picture of the giant needle going through your nose?" And I was like, "Sure," now that it's not actually happening.
You're like, okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Did it hurt for you getting your septum pierced?
Not at all.
Mine either. I remember being like building it up in my head. I also got my septum pierced here. And I built it up in my head, and then it didn't hurt nearly as bad as like my nostrils did. And I remember just being like, oh, that wasn't too bad. But
Yeah.
it sounds like such an intense piercing because it goes through
Right.
your nose.
Yeah. And the guy told me, he's like, "You have one of the best sweet spots I've ever seen." And I was like, "Thank you, and you're welcome."
You're like, cool, yeah. That's awesome. What was your first piercing?
My first was my first holes that I did when I was younger as in elementary school, where, you know, at that time I didn't know about piercing shops and things. So we went to Claire's and with the guns, and then I had a reaction to one of my earrings. I don't recall what type of metal it was or what was going on, but I wore these earrings for my uncle's wedding, and my ears were unhappy, and my mom were dealing with that process. And so then after that, I am very forgetful, was kind of lazy, so then my piercings closed. And then many years later, I don't remember if I was in high school or maybe a little bit older, I went back to a Claire's and got them re-pierced, and the gun got stuck.
Oh no!
On my ear. It had already been pierced through, so it was fine. It wasn't like halfway done. But I just had this gun hanging off the side of my ear for a few minutes, and it was fine. No big deal. And so it was my first lobes. Then after that, I wanted my second holes done on my lobes because I thought that was super cool. And I did that literally before first date with a guy I was with for 5 years. I was just like, "I'm going on a date tonight, might as well do it." And then after that, I ended up getting my third holes in my lobes pierced because my OCD couldn't handle just seeing things in sets of 2.
Yes.
It was wrong. My brain was like, "This isn't correct. This isn't artistically okay. It needs to be an odd number."
I need a third one.
I need a third one, so I got a third. And then I got a cartilage piercing, which I was terrified of because in middle school we had this like newsreel that would show sometimes in the morning, and it talked about cauliflower ear. And my brain went, "Oh no, I don't want to be that guy.
Like,
I don't want cauliflower ear. No, I'm scared."
Oh, that's funny.
So I did that one, and that's my cartilage piercings are the ones that hurt the worst. I have a spiral of 3 on my right ear, so it was 3 individual cartilage piercings that I had to heal at once.
Ooh.
And then just healing that, it was sore, it was achy, it was uncomfortable. One of my other cats, back when she was snuggly with me, now not quite so much, she's gotten older and was like, eh. She was snuggling with me, and one of her claws was actually hooked in one of my earrings. And I was half awake, and I just remember unhooking her claw and just moving about my life. And then I woke up the next morning and went, "What?"
That actually happens fairly often. But I've heard that more than once of people going, "I have my cat got its claw stuck in my lips."
Oh, no.
It's like an often enough occurrence that I'm like, oh, I know what to do.
But it ended up being okay. Like, I was half awake, unhooked it, was totally fine. Then I woke up the next morning and went, "That could have gone horribly wrong."
Yeah.
So quickly.
Hers, she was not so lucky it ripped a little bit.
Oh.
So a lot of times when I interview people and ask them like what their experience meant to them, they have told me that it was a transformative time for them. Was that true for you, or was it, just more of like feeling confident, or?
It was a little bit of both. Growing up, I wasn't allowed to do fun colored hair or get my own alternative piercings or style and things. I wasn't really allowed to express myself in a way that I really wanted to.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to do that as an adult. So then once I became 18 and was able to make these decisions by myself, that's when a lot of it started to happen. And it was fun to pick out my own piercings, where they wanted to go, and like the one that I felt truly unique with was my spiral on my right ear, where I felt like that one was different and not one that a lot of people have. So that one's my special place.
So what piercing was it that made you feel the most unique?
My cartilage piercing with my spiral.
Oh, very cool.
Because I've only seen... Yeah. Just like a little bit easier. My boyfriend's gaming in the background, so I'm like trying to make sure I can hear, but also like, come on, hair, get out of the way. There we are.
I love it.
I've seen maybe 2 or 3 other people with it, and they only had 2 instead of the 3, so my brain went, ha ha, I have the 3.
I like it. That's awesome. All right, and so then it looks on your face. You have 2 on your nose and then 2 on your lips. Are you going to do 3?
Maybe.
Like now.
I know. It all depends, because I really like the look whenever I see different things. I'm like I love your 2 on either side. I've thought about that. I've thought about a cluster on one side. When I was going to pick out lip piercings, because lip piercing was the first one I actually tried to look up, like, what are there different styles of lip piercings? What do all these mean? And because I'm an animal person too, I had to try and get that bias out of my head. So I knew I wanted the 2 close next to each other as a spider bite, which I think is cool when they have like animal names, because there was one that was a shark bite that had like so many, and my brain was like, do I only want that because it has shark in the title? Yes. Let's start small. Instead of getting like 8 lip piercings, let's just do like 2.
That, yes, so, 8 all at once would be a little much to get used to.
Be a little excessive. So I did the 1 to make sure that I liked it, I thought about it, and then I got the second one. I believe I did my 1 here.
Yeah, you did. With Erica, I believe.
Yeah, and she was really nice. And
yeah.
I live in Salem, and so a lot of the times, funnily enough, when I am going to Avanti to get a piercing, like my septum, it was right before I went on a vacation with my friend. We were going to the beach, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and we were in Washington Square Mall. We just got some cider, and I think she bought some rum when that distillery place was in there, and we were walking by, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a piercing shop, and I was thinking about my septum. She's like, you want to just do it? Yeah, I kind of do.
You're like, I'm already having an exciting day.
I'm already excited. We're already leaving to go to the beach tomorrow. Let's just do it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's what's cool about piercings, is they can kind of momentize, like a special time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so when I started, I'm the manager now, but when I started coming to Avanti, I was a customer, and I'd come with my best friend, and we would get piercings together, and we came all of the time, and it was just such a fun experience. You get to like bond with your friend, and then yeah, it's just a really fun time. I don't know, it makes you feel brave. I felt brave after getting my septum. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm so cool.
Yeah, like you kind of strut out of the shop after that, like, I did a thing.
Right? Look at my nose.
Look at this. Everyone look at this.
I went to work right afterwards, and I had tucked it up because it's the one piercing that you can like, it's like the mullet for piercings. You're like,
right.
Party business. And I had it stuck in my nose, and I made like a big stink about it. I like sneezed, like, oh, I got my septum pierced. I forgot I can't sneeze. Like, I was ridiculous.
I didn't quite do that, but I did flip it up a lot while I was at work initially, because I didn't have that conversation with my boss, like, is he gonna care? I don't know. But then he didn't care, and I also just walked into work one day with my hair completely green, and he didn't say anything either, so I think I was pretty safe.
You're like, this is cool. I would do that with other jobs. I would, because a lot of people think that the septum would be super noticeable, but I've noticed not everyone really sees it.
No, they don't. I've even had some people say, oh, I didn't realize you had 2 lip piercings. And I changed to actually having loops on my lip and my nose because so one of the clinics I work with exotic animals. So in the vet world, exotic animals is essentially things that aren't dogs and cats or farm animals. And so chickens kind of can fall into that depending on if it's a backyard chicken or a production chicken. And so up in Portland, there's a lot of backyard chickens. And one of them, ironically, she has the same name as my mother, who's not a fan of my piercings. I was restraining her, kind of, a compa. She just stepped on my keyboard and made a bunch of noise in my ear. Thank you, friend. I was restraining her kind of politely for the exam, just lightly having my hands on her chest here. And she looked at me, and then she just pecked at one of my lip piercings. It was a little silver stud. It wasn't that big of it wasn't super noticeable, but she just pecked at it, and I went, ugh! Like, it was fine. It didn't pop out. It was no big deal. But after that, I was like, I should probably get a hoop so that way it's a little bit more stable, and I'm not having my patients just randomly pluck my jewelry out of my face.
Oh, that's so funny. My aunt has one of those backyard chickens, and it ate an earring out of her ear. She's like, oh!
That actually happened to me. I used to do wildlife rehab.
Very cool.
About 10 years ago, and I was bottle feeding some fawns, and while I was changing the bottles and giving them extra snuggle time because it's a baby deer, what else are you supposed to do other than snuggle with it forever? Which isn't great for the rehab portion, but I was 18, so it made sense in my brain.
You're like, I was there, it's fine.
It was fine. The little one, I didn't even think about it, but I let him nurse on my ear because they would tell people, like, hey, they might want to nurse on your ear, nurse on your neck. And so I would always joke with my boyfriend at the time, be like, if I come home with a hickey, it was a baby deer. Like, I never had to have that conversation, but he was sucking on my ear. Then afterwards I went, oh no, you just ate an earring.
No!
It'll be fine. The deer ended up being okay. It wasn't life altering. It was really tiny, and the deer was...
Must have been smaller than a pencil eraser.
It was smaller than a pencil eraser.
Which, for anyone curious, is smaller than a 0 gauge. It's probably around a 2 gauge.
Yeah. Which was funny because it would actually have been helpful to have a pierced person in that vet clinic for a frame of reference.
Yeah, when I was talking to the vet, I was like, 0 gauge, because she has stretched ears too. So we were like talking in gauge form, and it made it easier to communicate. I'm like, oh, well, it's like 8, like this many millimeters.
Yeah, and then we're like, oh, okay.
Piercing, saving lives.
They are saving lives, one pug at a time.
One pug at a time. So what got you into, I guess, dedicating your life to animals is a pretty big deal. What got you into that?
When I was a kid, I'd always read animal encyclopedias. That's kind of how I learned to read.
Nice.
So that's what I spent most of my time doing. We watched a lot of wildlife shows like Crocodile Hunter with Steve Irwin and the Jeff Corwin Experience. Like, that was how I would bond with my dad. And so I always had that and nurtured that. And so when I went to high school and in middle school, I always knew what I wanted to do. I always knew I was going to be in the animal field. Just a matter of where. And I love exotic animal medicine because I don't feel like they have as much representation in the veterinary world as dogs and cats do. There's plenty of research out there for our dog and cat companions. Like, they're everywhere, but there aren't as many doctors or technicians who are comfortable with, say, reptiles and things like that. And I have some reptiles at home. I love them. They're great. They deserve veterinary care when things go not according to plan with them. And a lot of times with our exotic animal friends, it's because there's something that's not quite right with their husbandry. So something in their environment is just a little bit out of whack. They're not warm enough, they don't have the proper lighting, or if it's an exotic mammal, their diet isn't complete. Like, there's always just something missing, and it creates a great educational platform. And so I love talking about the husbandry and the care of those animals with my clients. I think it's fun for me to share that knowledge, and I try to do it in a way where they feel safe and not like they're judged, because the internet is so infinitely helpful and not helpful. There's so much infighting where it's like, if you do this, you're a horrible person. If you don't do this, you're the worst. And then you have to wonder too where those people live. Like, taking care of something like, for example, a chameleon in Florida is way easier than taking care of a chameleon here in the Pacific Northwest. Florida, it's already hot and humid and I think wonderful, but not everyone agrees. And here, it's a lot cooler, different level of humidity, different things going on. So you have to tweak with where you live in the country as well.
I like that. That's very true with piercing too. It's one of the reasons why we started doing these calls is you look after animals the way that I look after people's piercings.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on the internet that's incorrect or mean.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be.
No, it's kind of unnecessary how
yeah.
Do you have to be that aggressive and that judgmental? I don't understand.
Exactly, especially for a whole form of expression that's supposed to be about enlightenment, it's about yourself up from the restrictions of society, which would be harsh judgments.
Exactly. Like, we're all here for the same thing. Let's not tear each other down.
Teamwork, people.
Yeah.
What was one misconception that you maybe had before you started getting piercings versus now?
Well, that all of them would hurt like crazy. I was afraid that all of them would just be super painful, and that it would be hard for me to find work, or that I would be judged or seen a certain way. A lot of my employers don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you take care of them, they're tastefully done, they don't mind. One of my bosses, actually, I asked him before I got my nose pierced here. I said, "So, Dr. White, I'm thinking about this." And he said, "Ha ha ha, I would rather you didn't." But he laughed. And so I went, "Okay." At the end of the day, I said, "So just to clarify, no nose piercing, correct?" And he laughed again and said, "I don't care. Do whatever you want. Just don't do it yourself."
Great advice.
And I laughed, and I was thinking, yeah, because this is the movie Grease, and I'm going to grab an 18-gauge needle and an ice cube and go in the bathroom at work. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't trust myself to do that. I don't trust myself to do that. That's terrifying. And so having that moment of, oh, not all of my employers are going to care that much or see me any differently, and clients don't care. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't bother them. At least in my field. My mom works at the Salem Hospital, and it was interesting. They did kind of like a poll with their patients and asked, if your healthcare provider came in with a bunch of tattoos and piercings, how would that make you feel? And they said that they felt negatively about it, that they wouldn't be cared for as much and things. And that really irritated me. And I actually had a moment with a mobile orthopedic surgeon who came to the clinic to perform a procedure. I'd worked with him before, but I don't think he recognized me. I mean, my hair was also green at the time, and I had more tattoos, so I had visibly changed.
It looked different.
I did. Thinking about it now, I did look very different. And he made a comment. He's from a much older generation, that the girl who he had to have his blood drawn for one reason or another, and the girl who was drawing his blood had a tongue ring, and he made a comment along the lines of, if she didn't care enough about her body to do that, then why should I think she would care about mine? And he was saying this to me with my obvious facial piercings. I didn't have my lips done at the time, but I looked at him and I said, I don't believe that the jewelry on my body or in my face or the ink and colors on my skin have any merit or anything to do with how good I am at my job. That has nothing to do with how good I am at my job.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and didn't say anything. So it's kind of like, yeah, take that.
There you go.
to me, it doesn't. It shouldn't matter. Like, I have tattoos of dinosaurs on my arms, and that doesn't mean that I don't care about my patients, or that I actually had a client not say this to me directly, but to one of the receptionists I work with, maybe it was about a month ago or so, and she said, I really like that nurse. She was really nice, and I normally, even with all of her piercings, normally that bothers me, but she's just so nice. It didn't bother me. And I'm like, cool, okay. Nice to know that, like, that doesn't bother you, but also, like, you're welcome, and I don't know how I should feel, but... So it's nice seeing some of that changing, and some of the older generation that we worry about so much, sometimes maybe we don't have to worry about them as much. It's not only them left in the world.
It's true. Well, and what's really interesting is to see that the piercing community, like piercing facilitators, that culture is changing as well. I've talked to a couple piercers who've been piercing for 18 plus years, and they said it used to be extremely violent, and there was like a lot of there was a lot of like almost like gang-like activity among different piercing and tattoo shops. And so seeing that change, which when I heard that, I was like, oh, well, no wonder there's such a stigma.
Yeah, we're kind of doing it to ourselves.
We did it to ourselves. And it's really interesting to see it go from that to an industry that cares so immensely about everything. Like, there's piercers, not a lot of people know this, but a lot of piercers are actually not paid employees. They're subcontractors. And so they make money based off of piercings. And so with the shutdowns, they're actually not getting any income because of unemployment situations. And hopefully they will soon. But they're sacrificing their income by not wanting to reopen.
Yeah.
Too soon. And so it's really interesting. I mean, I'm not a piercer myself, but to see piercers putting themselves financially on the line in order to support their customers' well-being is really, really amazing to see. And I think it's something that needs a lot more attention, because it's so contrary to what I think society thinks as people who are pierced and who are facilitating the piercings, that they just care about themselves, and they're all about, you're like, oh, like bedazzled,
Yeah.
But it's very much about, that experience you talked about of like getting your own piercings and feeling more like yourself, and wanting other people to feel that way and to be healthy and happy. Like, it's really all about making sure everyone's healthy and happy within whatever description that is for them.
Definitely.
Yeah. But hearing about the old days, I'm like, oh, that makes sense why, people think that maybe people who are modified are more violent is because they used to be a little bit.
It's like, oh, that's not good PR, friends.
At least more in like the South.
Yeah.
The 2 interviews I had, that's where they're from. So I couldn't speak to the whole world, but for sure where they were at. So what is your favorite animal?
Oh, that is so tricky. Because I have so many in like different sections. But ones that I've been kind of over the past few years giving a lot more attention to are sharks and crocodiles. I don't know what it is. I go through phases. I had a point in my life where I was obsessed with tigers. Like, it's just, I like a lot of the more, I don't want to say primitive, but because technically they are, but you know, I want to give them more value than that, where they don't get some of the attention and they have their own survival mechanisms, which I think are amazing in different ways. It's not the usual soft, cuddly, staring at my cat. So it's easy to be like, oh, look at my cat, it's cute, it's fluffy, but it's like, you know, crocodiles and sharks and our scaly friends also, they need love too. So kind of change with that sometimes.
Before I enjoy the rest of your day, I have one pressing question that I think you might have an expert opinion on.
Okay.
About the Tiger King.
Oh gosh. That was horrifying to me in so many different ways. I binged it in an evening. Unintentionally. I didn't realize there was only 7 episodes. I was off work early and I was like, this is gonna be interesting. And then it was like a train wreck I couldn't stop watching. And part of me, like when I was young and growing up and things, I wanted that hands-on experience with those animals because that helped foster the love of them for me. But as I got older, seeing the industry and kind of having that curtain lifted a little bit and realizing how that's not great for the animals, that's not what they need, and knowing that there's more in captivity and in the wild kind of hurts my soul a little bit. And then these people that are just profiting on it and infighting with each other, like to me, it lost the point of this is the animals. And making sure the animals are cared for, and that if they have to be in captivity because they can't go anywhere else, you give them the best quality of life possible because that's your job. You don't worry about what this person's doing in the infighting over here or whatever. You're there for them at the end of the day, and you got to make sure that their lives are the best that they can be. And Carol Baskins is a hypocrite. And so watching that thing too, like the infighting between the two of them, I was just like, but the tigers, you're missing the point. People go because they want to see the animals, not see you. Stop making it about you. People care, but they don't care. What about the animals? What about the tigers? What about the lions? What about them? And so making sure that their quality of life is good. And it's kind of scary to me. With where I work, I have to look at prohibited species. So people are allowed to have these animals that come into one of the clinics I work with or not, because we don't work with illegally owned animals. If the client doesn't know that it's illegal, then we give them the resources and we're like, hey, like red-eared sliders aren't legal to own in Oregon because they're an invasive species. So we will do some education there, let people know that, but that there's some where it's like, you can just get permits and have a lion. And I'm like, whoa, why? Why would you? No. Keep that in nature where they need to be, not everything, and you can love them from afar, and that's okay. I had to grow up to learn that. When I was a kid, I wanted to go out in nature and snuggle every animal that ever existed and have them all literally be my best friends. And you can love them from a distance, and that's okay, and that's where they need to be, is safe away from you, and you safely away from them, and you can just kind of wave. Throw over here, or a webcam, whatever is safest for everybody.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your opinion on wild animals, your opinion on vet care, why you love animals, and why you love piercings. It was great talking to you.
Yes, you too.
we kind of went all over the place.
We did, but it was kind of fun.
I appreciate your time, and I'm so excited to see you when all is over.
Of course.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.